What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different than we normally do on this channel, and that is discuss the news that just came out in the last couple of days about Universal and Blumhouse teaming up to do a remake of The Thing. Or is it? Let's find out. Now, if you've been a fan of horror for any amount of time, or any movies in general, reboots are a thing that always happen. Remakes, we've been calling them different names, depending on what you think a reboot, reimagining, prequel, whatever, of these movies. And The Thing is one of the most prized pieces of horror cinema. It wasn't always that way, but it has become one of the go-to movies in horror, specifically for practical effects, story, tension. It has a lot in there that a lot of horror fans really love. Personally, I love The Thing. It's in my top 5 movies of all time. I'd be hard pressed if it wasn't number one. It is always struggling for number one spot almost, but for me, I've always loved the movie. I've watched it numerous times, bought multiple different copies of the movie, and when I was a child, when I first saw it, it was etched into my fucking memory. Some of those scenes in this movie were just insane. At the time, when it came out, a lot of people thought it was a failure, and over time, its cult status grew and grew and grew and grew. I even remember back in the day when I met some horror fans for the first time in Florida, and they asked me, what's your favorite horror movie? And at the time, I was like, The Thing. And they laughed at me. They laughed at me, which is fine. Everybody has their opinion. I'm not saying that you're wrong, but you're wrong. Anyway, so the news just came out within the last couple of days. Universal and Blumhouse are developing a new version of The Thing that will adapt long-lost original novel. So if you guys are unfamiliar with this, a lot of people don't know that The Thing is, in a way, kind of a remake from the movie called The Thing from Another World that came out in 1951, or as I like to call it, the movie that has a lot of slamming doors, because all they do is open and close doors.
Close the door.
Yes, sir.
Come in. Close the door. Freddie, do you suppose the Pentagon could send us a revolving door? Look, I'll expect you back sometime tomorrow night.
Yes, sir. And I'll close the door.
But the one thing that they had in common is that they were both adaptations of the novel Who Goes There, which was by John W. Campbell Jr. Put out in August of 1938 issue Astounding Science Fiction, and expanded, never-before-seen version was recently unearthed. You're thinking to yourself, well, I already know about Who Goes There. It's been out for a long time. Well, apparently, Betancourt said, John Betancourt, he announced the discovery of a novel-length version of the classic novella, and he took to Kickstarter to fund the release of the novel called Frozen Hell. So Betancourt went on to explain that basically this published novel by John W. Campbell had a novella of Who Goes There about a team of scientists in Antarctica who discover and are terrorized by monstrous shape-shifting alien entity. Story would later be adapted into the John Carpenter's iconic movie The Thing, following an earlier film adaptation, which we just mentioned in 1951. That was the abridged version, Who Goes There. So it was the shorter version of the original story. They had a longer version called Frozen Hell, which had to be shortened for the publication. Frozen Hell manuscript remained unknown and unpublished for decades, and it was only recently discovered. Although I will say, I thought Frozen Hell was already out. Am I wrong here? Like, I never read it, but I mean, it's right here. So we've got a whole new, wider spectrum of a book that may go into further details. I gotta say, I do not dislike Blumhouse. Have they made some movies that feel very formulaic? Just add water to a creature? Yes. Have they made movies that are really good and unique? Yes. So we're kind of on both sides of the fence here as to what will happen with this. But they are not doing it alone. Universal is also going to be helping out. And as we already know, Halloween came out in 2018, which for some was one of the best movies they'd ever seen. For me personally, I thought it was okay. Now, without going into too much detail, the reason I wasn't a big fan of Halloween was because it felt like it borrowed from all the different movies in the franchise anyway, especially for a film that was going to retcon and cut out Halloween 2 and start a new story, which is fine, you can do it, but if you're going to do that, you shouldn't borrow from the one that you're cutting out. And that kind of bothered me. If you're curious about our Halloween 2018 review, you can check out the episode link down below. I digress. Donis wrote, "It's official. I've received my contract and first check. I'm executive producing a remake of The Thing, but with additional chapters of John Campbell's groundbreaking novel Frozen Hell that had been lost for decades. Now, for the first time ever, Campbell's full version will be realized on the big screen. New film will include very best of RKO's The Thing from Another World, John Carpenter's classic The Thing, and both books Frozen Hell and Who Goes There." A lot of people are online right now talking about whether or not this is going to be a good thing or not. And I totally understand both sides of the argument. I'm not saying anyone is wrong in this particular example. There was a prequel that came out in 2011 that, you know, it didn't really satiate the same vibe and feel as the first movie that John Carpenter did, but we pretty much assumed that that was going to be the case. For one, they used a lot of CGI. But being a Thing fan, me personally, it didn't offend me. I just wanted to be back in that story. I wanted to be somewhere near it. And they went for the prequel so that they wouldn't step on the story, what happened after. We're still wondering if Kurt Russell, McReady's character, or Keith David's child's character was the Thing. Is this remake going to be everything that we're hoping for? Is Blumhouse and Universal combined going to be the answer to it all? For me personally, I want to see practical effects beauty. I think practical effects are still relevant in today's world, even if some people find it schlocky and younger people are more accepting of CGI. I think that there is a definite difference between just CGI and just practical effects. I think it feels real, especially for the actors who come in and have to participate with the unimaginable thing that is in front of them. Plus, I like gore and I want to see it in the most raw format that we can find. It is not a bad idea, in my opinion. So if they do that and they make the movie R, then we're good. For me personally. What about you guys? If they make it PG-13, oh man, I really hope they don't do that. That would really upset and divide everybody, and I would not even be able to defend the other side after that. Will I still watch it? Yes, I'll fucking watch it, because for me, being back in that world in some way or another is just awesome. I wish that they could have done a sequel like John Carpenter, and I know that they had like a TV show that was supposed to come out called The Thing, which is really weird back in the day, because how are they going to pull that off with all the gore and things like that? It most definitely would not have been like it was supposed to be for the viewers who enjoyed that movie to begin with. But they canned that, and now we're here in the future with this Frozen Hell version, the full novel, and I don't know how I feel about it 100%. I'm cautiously optimistic. There's a little piece of me, the child, the Thing, the kid that sat on the couch and watched one of the craziest scenes in history for horror unfold before my eyes. One that did not quit, by the way, and I'm talking about this one. Now, is it possible the Blumhouse recognizes this kind of fandom for it? I think more so now, and I hope more so now than they did 10, 20 years ago. Not that Blumhouse was necessarily a big entity then or anything like that, but hopefully they understand what the fans of these stories like. I'm sure they're going to be making their own creative liberties to the original novel and everything like that. I haven't read it, so I don't even really know what's in it to expect to begin with. Have any of you guys ever actually read Who Goes There? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I think we need to just remain calm for now, not speculate too hard. It's fun to think about and kind of wonder if it's going to be good or not. I will be honest, Blumhouse wasn't my first pick if I was going to pick somebody, but let's hope for the best on this. We always have these conversations about remakes, and I'll be honest, like, it's very tired. It's a tired argument because, one, it's never going to stop. Two, they kind of put the copyright or, out there so that they can kind of keep the movie fresh. And sometimes it introduces people into the old movies. Three, some of my favorite movies are literally remakes. Some of the best that I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, technically The Thing, The Blob, The Fly. These are all great practical effects movies that blew my mind. And I still watch them every year because I love them. What about you guys? Love to hear what your thoughts are in the comments below. Do you like me doing these kind of talks with you guys? Because I would really like to get your opinions on things. And by the way, we're like inches away from 1K followers on this channel. So if you have a friend, please like, subscribe. If you've never subscribed before, especially, let's hit that 1K and try to build this channel so that we can do a lot more. I have some plans that I want to do some stuff with, like Christina, who does the podcast with me. Maybe doing like Tales from the Crypt episodes one at a time every week. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do with short stories where we add sound effects and things, stuff that I create in particular. Plus, we always put the podcast and reviews up always, but this is just something new. And if you haven't already, check out our most recent episode of Color Out of Space with Richard Stanley, the director of Hardware, returning to film, and Nicolas Cage doing his best freak out and one of the best adaptations of Lovecraft that I've seen. See what you think of that. I'll post a link down below and also at the end of this video. But other than that, thanks for coming by, and as always, long live the void.